I just finished a soul crushing session with Juices, the kind of session that by the end of it, you just feel like you're mentally broken. You know, nothing you tried worked, nothing you could think of worked. All the solutions you could think of just weren't the right answers. And by the end of it, you don't know what you know and what you don't know anymore. You know, you're just lost. It just feels like you know so much, but so little at the same time. And by the end of it, he could point out just two things that let him beat me for the whole fucking 2.5 hours that we were playing, right? One was that I'm guessing way too much. You know, every button press that your opponent does is a piece of data that you can internalize. But instead of doing that, I don't know what information I was basing it off of. I was the fucking stars in the sky or something. I was just guessing and trying to throw buttons out and beat him with the priority system. The other thing is that I just wasn't patient enough, right? I was playing super sporadic and like trying to get in all the time, which is pretty ironic if you've been on this channel for a long time, because you know when I started, my issue was the exact opposite. I wouldn't do anything. I would just block things out. I'd play super passive and neutral, and I had no offense. I think I just need to seriously reevaluate how I approach this game and how I approach every single matchup. Not individually, but generally, right? To have a game plan that's simple enough to be adaptable. That's kind of what Juices told me. So I'm going to take a seat here and we're going to get into it. But before we do, I'm seriously trying to hit 10,000 subs by the end of the year. I don't know if that's a realistic goal to set for myself, but I'd like to try. So if you end up enjoying this video or if it helps you, please consider subscribing, and thank you so much for watching. The first thing we need to do is readjust our game plan. We need to make it simpler so it can be flexible. If you remember, when I was playing Manat, I had a game plan for like every single type of matchup, right? So if I played against a zoner through a lot of fireballs, we would reflect, right? We would reflect it, we'd throw the little orb out. If we played against like a rush down character, we'd keep them out with the big buttons as long as we could, and we'd look for anti-airs. If we played against grapplers, we used the big buttons and we didn't get rid of the orb, so we would have those big normals all the time. Those three simple little things is what is kind of a plan that I need to have for every single character. And the reason why I've only had it for Manat that whole time was because I learned it from somebody else, right? I learned it from Shiv's guide. And after I stopped playing Manat and I picked up Cammy, and now I'm playing Chun, I never went back and made a plan like that for them. And I think that's what's made it just so much harder to beat certain types of characters or certain types of players, is I have no real game plan when I walk into the game. But let's kind of get a general plan out for, we'll start with Chun. I think it'd be easier. Mostly because some of her buttons are pretty similar to Manat's in the way that they take up so much space and they're really good for keep out. So like I said, against zoners on Manat, we reflected everything, right? We just reflected, we put out our little orb, and we set up that little zoning game, a little mini game, if you will. On Chun, if somebody throws a fireball or somebody's zoning me, you can slide under it, you can Pazanchu over it, but that one's not as safe. So I think from now on, when we see a fireball, we slide under it. Very simple. And you're probably saying, well, were you not already doing that? That seems like a pretty simple thing to already have been doing. And the answer is, yeah, sometimes I would slide under it, but also when I see a fireball, all the options are flying through my head. I tell myself, oh, I can neutral jump, I can walk in block, I can slide under, I can Hazanchu, and by the time I think and select an option, the fireball is already at me. I've already blocked it or I've already got hit by it. We're simplifying it to slide because if a projectile does come through that we cannot slide under, then we can adjust the plan and it will be flexible enough to where I can make a different decision within that matchup. Because right now what we're doing is not sustainable, right? Trying to react to a fireball with the 4 different options and then trying to select one before it hits us is like a quick time event or something. Let's talk about grapplers a little bit. This one's pretty straightforward, right? We just want to use some of Chun's good pokes to keep them out, and those pokes are going to change based on whatever range we're in, right? If we're super far away, stand heavy punch of course is king, right? We want to keep them at that range. But let's say they get in, right? Maybe they're a grappler, they have some mode of transportation that lets them get in pretty easily, like Alex. Then we can switch to back heavy punch or stand medium kick. We have a plan at each range to try and keep that grappler out. That's the important part. We're not always thinking, holy shit, he's right on me, what am I going to press? Instead, we're kind of cutting it into incremental sections within neutral, right? We're going to keep him at this. If he's this far away, we'll use this poke. If he's this far away, we'll use, you know, the closer pokes. Let's talk about rushdown characters a little bit. They can be similar to grapplers in the way that you want to just keep them out with your pokes, but they usually have some sort of move that lets them get in pretty free, right? Like Cammy has dive kick, for example, or she has like EX spiral arrow that'll let her fly through your fireballs. So in that sense, when you play against a rushdown character, we want to zone them. We want to use the fireball to anger them and upset them so that they jump. And that's something I need to realize is when you throw a fireball, you need to look to the air because that is the best way to beat it, right, is a jump. So when I throw a fireball, now we're going to look to the air. And some characters can just blow through it, right? If they're really paying attention, they can just blow through your fireball. But again, that's why the plan has some flexibility built into it, is at the very simplest level, we want to zone with the fireball until they start blowing through it. And then we could switch to zoning with something else, stand heavy punch in this case, or some big poke that takes up a lot of space or deters them from just running in. These are very crude and unpolished plans, but it's a good place to start. It's a simple place to start, and that's the important part. Because that's how we started on Monat, right? I realized very quickly that I can't just spam stand heavy punch against grapplers like you think you can, because they'll start jumping. Oh, so now that means I need to look to the air a lot more. And then sometimes you're going to press stand heavy punch or your zoning button, and they're not going to jump in retaliation. They're going to dash, or they're going to press a button afterwards. And that's how your game plan starts to evolve from this simple thing that we started the match with, Now I'm pressing stand heavy punch and I'm pressing crouch medium kick afterwards to catch him dashing forward or something. Or I'm pressing stand heavy punch and the stand heavy punch to catch him pressing after the first one. That's how the structure of me playing Monat worked for a long time. And it was pretty effective, right? I did get a super easy bracket at Texas Showdown, but I made top 48 nonetheless, pressing stand heavy punch and doing some anti-airs. Simple plans work very well, and I don't know why I forgot that. And you're probably wondering at this point why we didn't talk about Cammy, why we didn't make a bunch of game plans for Cammy like we did for Chun. I'll probably end up doing that after I make this video, but the problem is some of the problems I have with Cammy are not for not everybody has those problems, right? So for example, against zoners, generally you would just EX spiral arrow through a fireball, right? That's how you beat a zoner. You EX spiral arrow through, and then you start doing your offense. For some reason, I'm just super fucking bad at reacting to fireballs with that EX spiral arrow. And when I get there, I don't always have the best offensive game plan in mind when I do get the knockdowns. I'm realizing the more and more I play other characters, when I was playing Jury and now I'm playing Chun, that I'm just not good at playing rushdown characters, I guess. It's not totally what I'm looking for in a character. I just like the design, I guess. Like, as dumb as that sounds, that's how you pick a lot of your characters when you play these games. And I just liked Cammy's design, and I kind of liked how she played. She played a little bit similar to Karen, but I guess not really what I was looking for in the end. That doesn't mean I'll never play the character again. I'm sure you'll see me play Cammy more in the future. It's just I'm focusing on Chun more, because I think even though she has a lot of options and she can be complex, she reminds me of Monat in a way that I can wrap my head around, but also doesn't have like Monat's V trigger that is a big source of her damage and is very easy to drop all the combos. I feel like it's a good mashup of two characters that I like to play, Monat and a little bit of Karen and Cammy, as well as the fact that she still has the walk speed and the dash speed and everything that I'm used to, and she has a 3 frame and all that stuff that you look for in characters, at least in Street Fighter V. And so for right now, I'd like to just put a lot of time into Chun and see how it goes. That's really the only way you can figure out if a character is actually what you want them to be, or what you're looking for, is to put in the time, put in the effort, learn more about them, but also feel them out a lot more. But that's kind of my plan. That's kind of what I'm gonna do, is I'm just gonna go into a game. I'm gonna say, hey, this guy's a grappler, so I'm gonna keep him out. I'm gonna keep him out with my big old buttons. Or if I run into a zoner, hey, I'm gonna slide under your fireballs. If your fireball is, there's something weird property where I can't slide under it, then we'll Hozanchu over it. And if that doesn't work, then we'll go to our next option, right? It's not a game of trying to use all of this knowledge all at once for every single situation. It's using it when it's applicable. I think that's kind of the takeaway. In the end, it's just a task and a lesson in trying to reduce mental stack. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, if it helped you, please consider subscribing, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.